All right, good evening. I'm Caterina Gallippi, and tonight I'm going to tell you about the top 5 reasons why I am a woman in tech. So the first reason is innate interest in ability. So as a kid, and this is not an exaggeration, I used to carry around a little chalkboard begging my older brother and sister to play the math game with me, right? And in middle school, I couldn't wait to dissect the frog. I wanted to see how it worked, what was inside of it, all that stuff. I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be a biomedical engineer. So the second reason I'm a woman in tech is the unconditional support of my Italian family. Now, the people in this picture are not actually my family members, but but this picture accurately represents a family gathering in my household when I was a kid growing up. You will see that there are lots of bottles of wine on the table, usually homemade wine in my case. Several people are talking at the same time. There's lots of hand gesturing, and this poor baby, whether she likes it or not, is being tossed around from person to person, right? Totally my family. What this picture doesn't represent is the content of the conversation ongoing. And what I heard as a kid was that we were the descendants of Galileo and Michelangelo. We could do whatever we wanted in life. And despite the fact that my parents themselves are not college educated, I never questioned that I would go to college and study engineering. I went on to Princeton and majored in electrical engineering and engineering biology, and then to Duke for a Ph.D. in biomedical engineering. Thanks. So the number 3 reason that I'm a woman in tech is outstanding mentors. Many of you will recognize the person here on the top left. That's Peter Johnson. He hangs out on the frontier quite a bit. He and I used to be living in Pittsburgh together. I grew up in Pittsburgh. He was the very first scientific mentor I ever had when I was 18 years old. The second person on the top there is Peter Ramage. He was my thesis advisor at Princeton. Then the other 2 on the top are Bill Laframboise and Chris Kramer, both scientists in Pittsburgh in whose labs I did internships. On the bottom left is Greg Trahey. He's my graduate advisor at Duke. And then Tim Nichols, Gene Oringer, and Etta Pisano, who mentored me as a junior faculty person at UNC and NC State. Now, what you'll recognize here is that Etta is the only woman on this slide, right? She is the only woman, and she came relatively late in my trajectory toward an academic position. Now, Etta was really important to me because not only did she teach me how to be a great imaging scientist, she's a radiologist, but she showed me that you can be an active and engaged and involved mother. She has 4 kids. That you can do that while simultaneously managing a thriving research career. And to me, that was eye-opening, and it made me realize that this is really what I wanted to do for sure. So that brings me to reason number 4 that I am a woman in tech, and that's work-life balance. So these 3 cuties here are my actual children. This is, the tall one is Gabriella, she's 8. The middle child is Giorgio, he's 5. And the little one's Aurelia, she's 2. And they're a lot of fun. I like to spend time with them. And being an academic researcher running a lab requires a lot of long hours. But generally, they're pretty flexible hours. So that means that I can get home in time to have dinner with them and tuck them in at night and hear about their day and then start work again after they're in bed. But I have the opportunity to spend time with them, and to me, that's really important. Okay, and the number 5 reason why I'm a woman in tech is personal satisfaction. Ultrasound, the technology that I work on, is the only imaging technology that's accessible to much of the world's population. That means that the cutting-edge technologies that I develop in my lab with my graduate students translate not only to Americans and other people who live in countries with, robust medical infrastructure, but they translate also to people living in countries with burgeoning populations or limited healthcare resources. And to me, that's really meaningful. That's the beauty of working on a technology that's both low cost and portable. So a little bit more about my research. My research involves developing ultrasound to interrogate the mechanical properties of tissue. So for centuries, palpation has been used for diagnostic purposes. We essentially palpate tissue, but we do it using ultrasound, and that gives us much greater temporal and spatial precision. So here's just one example about why that's relevant. In this picture here, you see an atherosclerotic plaque that's in the carotid artery of a woman, a 45-year-old woman with stroke symptoms. And what you can see are these red regions that are circled. Those red regions are highly displacing or soft and squishy components of the plaque that are actually necrotic cores. And we can also measure fibrous caps and fibrous cap thickness with less than 10% error. Now, necrotic core presence and fibrous cap thickness are critically important to managing this person's atherosclerosis and preventing a stroke. So being able to give that information to clinicians is really important. And we have lots of other applications ongoing as well. The last thing I'm going to say about my career and why it's so satisfying to do what I do is the number of outstanding colleagues in this area. There is no other place anywhere in the United States that has such a concentration of ultrasound talent. Between Duke, UNC, and NC State, there are 10 investigators who specialize in medical technology development. That means that we are able to educate our students and collaborate in research like no other investigators in the country, and that's really cool. It makes my job a lot of fun. So that's all I have to say for tonight. Thank you for your attention.